Well, I went down to the hardware store to see my old friend Bob. I said my roof it leaks, my rug's a mess, and my front door needs a new knob. I got squirrels in my attic, I got bats in my head. Well, Bob just leaned over the counter and he shook his head and said, "You need home repairs and solutions. Home repairs and solutions. They'll fix your windows, they'll fix your house, they'll even tell you how to get rid of a mouse. Home repairs and solutions."
And welcome to the Home Repairs and Solutions Show, our Friday morning Ask the Pro series, brought to you by Spring Mountain Air, your source for Amana Heating and Air Conditioning products. And your host is Mary Pearson. And now here's Mary.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Mary?
I'm good. If most of you were listening on the show last week, you know Mark is out.
Mm-hmm.
He's out running around playing music. And I don't know if he's listening or not, but if you are, hi, Mark. Hope you have a good weekend. I think he's in Curryville, I believe. He's all over the place. It's hard for me to keep up with him sometimes, but we'll miss him today, but he'll be back next week. And this is the Home Repairs and Solutions Show. Before we get started, I have a couple guests today. We kind of have a panel set up today in our studio, so you'll be able to ask lots of questions and get lots of answers today. I want to give out our numbers first. Our numbers here are 862-9977 and 1-800-375-0056. And my guest today is I have Ron Hartman. He's from Remax. He's been on the show several times. And I have Jeremy Atchley with Energy Wise. And he's also been on the show in the past. You might have been on the listening when they've been on the show before. But today we can talk about anything to do with home sales, if you're buying or purchasing home, energy audits, what they can do for you, why you might want to do that. Or we can talk about heating and air conditioning. I can try my best to answer questions for that as well. And if you have any questions, just give us a call. We'd be love to talk to you this morning. But I want to say welcome to the show, guys. Thanks for being with me today.
Good morning, Mary. It's always a good time.
It is. We always say, no matter what the weather is outside, the sun is always shining right here at Home Repairs and Solutions. So we hope you're with us, and we hope we can spread some sunshine your way this morning. I guess I'll start with Jeremy. Energy audits are something that I still think is a little confusing sometimes. It still is a little confusing to me as to what all you can do for someone. I mean, it's a very encompassing type deal that you can do for homeowners. Is it mostly for people who are living in their home and want to do improvements, or do you do this for people who are maybe looking to purchase a home?
We can do it from existing homes to if you want to buy a home to just about any reason to go out there and check that thing out. It's good to have a good idea what you're getting into before you buy it. Much like you get a home inspection to kind of know what's going on, you get an energy audit on your house and figure out, estimate your utility bills, kind of know where the house is lacking in performance and what we can do for you.
Well, I know that there's so much going on with energy conservation, and it's still a subject that's being talked about quite a bit. Just in our industry alone, the improvements in heating and air conditioning equipment as far as efficiency has grown a lot just in the last 10 years. So I think it's something that it's going to be an ongoing conversation. I don't think it's something that's ever going to go away as far as always trying to improve and how to use less energy and how to make our homes more efficient. Now, Ron, from a real estate perspective, they don't require these, correct? If you're looking to purchase a house,
That's
FHA
correct.
or no one requires these type of things.
No, like pretty much any inspection when you're buying a home, the only thing that you'd be required to do is if you're getting an FHA or a government-backed loan, they would have a FHA appraisal done, which isn't a lot different than your normal appraisal. But there's no inspections that are actually required to buy a home. Like any inspections are just because the buyer wants that done for their own knowledge.
So an energy audit is something that a buyer could
absolutely.
request at the time
Absolutely.
of looking to purchase a home.
Yeah. If a buyer would want to do that, they would need to do it knowing that they're doing it for their own knowledge. The way that at least our local contract is written, there would be no way for them to, if it didn't meet their needs as far as energy efficiency, that's not considered a hidden defect in a home. And so they would still be tied to the contract. They couldn't use it as where a normal home inspection, if there's like a a major defect with the house or something that the seller refuses to fix, then the buyer has the right to get out of the contract.
I see.
Where if with an energy audit, they wouldn't have that right because it's not really, there's no defect really. It's just a less efficient home than maybe things are built nowadays. So if a buyer knows that going into advance and knows that they're doing it for their own benefit and ways they can improve the home after they buy it, then yeah, it's a great idea.
Well, you know, in the past, when Paul and I would purchase a home, oftentimes they would say they would let us look at the utility bills, which kind of didn't make a whole lot of sense to me because not everyone is going to use the house
Yeah,
the
it depends
same.
on how they have the thermostat set and
Exactly, it
how often
depends-
they use the windows or attic fans or ceiling fans.
Exactly.
There's just so much to go into
And how
that.
many live in the home? Like we were buying our homes early on. We had small children, and so I was doing a lot of laundry, and I mean, there's a lot more going on.
Bills
with
are going
small
to be
children.
higher than nowadays.
than if two people are living there. Or if you have maybe you have a mom who stays home with her kids. That's probably going to use more utilities than if you have two people that are out working both. So to me, to get a utility bill from the people that are living there now really didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But an energy audit would give you probably a more exact idea of what you could expect out of that home than a utility bill would. I mean, that would make sense to me.
I've seen utility bills their average could change up to $50-$60 depending
Sure.
on who the person is that's in there.
How many
Sure.
times the kids go in and out?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Uncle Bill likes to leave the window open in February to keep it from getting stuffy. And people do a lot of strange
Yes.
things in their homes.
Yes, they do. Yes,
Well,
they
and
do.
from having rental property, every now and then we'll check the utility. We don't pay the utilities for them, the tenants do, but when a tenant moves out, it's interesting to see the difference in their utility bills that happen just based on that person living there.
Yeah, and their lifestyle and that type of thing.
Yep.
So if I was a prospective, if I was in the market to buy a home right now, that might be something that I would want to consider because a lot of times when you're just looking at what's there, from my experience, most people can go look at a home and they can say, okay, there's a stove, there's a refrigerator, they have a air conditioner, they have a furnace, whatever. But you really don't know how efficient that is or how drafty a house might be or different things like that. So that would be something that if you're looking to buy a house, if you would get an energy audit on that, you could pinpoint different areas that could use improvement that you might want to think about. If you're looking at two different houses, let's say they're the same price, and okay, you like them both equally, but would you buy this one or would you buy this one? An energy audit might help you make that choice. Because one that's more energy efficient, of course, is going to be less to live in.
It's like paying two mortgages. So if you know what you're getting into
Right.
the utility bills before you get
Absolutely.
there, that's a big savings.
Sure. And what does it I mean, an energy audit, are there different levels of audits or are they all the same?
I pretty much offer one audit. It's
Okay.
$479 for up to 2,000 square feet, 5 cents a foot for everything over the 2,000. But that is the everything audit. We're going to depressurize the house. We're going to test the ductwork, test the furnace, air conditioner, crawl through every place we can find, and then do a full written report and a computer report from a program called RIM-Rate that actually models the home the way it is with the living conditions, with all your light bulbs and, everything in it. And it's going to get you pretty spot on. And I don't like to offer different pieces of it because I feel like you're really doing the customer an injustice if you're not giving them the full package all at once.
Well, that makes sense. And for instance, like one of the things that you would probably pinpoint in an energy audit would be their insulation factor.
Oh, definitely.
And so that is something that oftentimes you can improve with not a huge outlay of money. I mean, you can add some insulation for a pretty modest cost compared to replacing the heating and air or something like that, and make a big difference on the efficiency. So that would be something that a homeowner or a buyer would be able to consider when they're looking at purchasing a home.
That's the good thing about the audit is the program I use, well, I've got a library built of all the repairs you could do to your house. So when we see how it is, we start plugging in upgrades to the home. And it's going to rate those by a savings to investment ratio and a simple payback ratio. So you know how long it's going to take for that repair to pay for itself, which one's the most cost effective, which one's going to get you the most bang for your buck. So you'll know if you need to go in there and add insulation first, and then let's work on the heating and air. Then we can talk about that bad window and things like that. So it's nice to prioritize everything you have first.
Well, in that way, a homeowner can kind of take on a project one at a time. Like you
Right.
said, if they only have the money to do one thing, they can add the insulation because that's going to give them a big bang for their buck. And then as things get more money and as time goes by, they can replace the windows or replace heating and air and kind of do
It's
those
nice
things.
to have that blueprint, so you're not just throwing money at something thinking, oh, my utility bill is not getting any lower, and I keep buying this and buying this. But it's a for sure thing. You know, it's locked in, and this is going to work. I mean, the data doesn't lie. So
And from what I'm hearing, the home market is picking up here in the last few months. There are more people looking to purchase a home.
Most definitely. I've kind of been jokingly saying the last couple months, this is the first time in 5 years that when people ask me how the real estate market is, I actually believe when I say it's getting better. And before, that's always been the salesman in me. Oh, yeah, it's getting better, the optimist in me. But now it's like,
Sure.
okay, I actually believe it. And the light at that end of the tunnel that we've seen for the last several years is actually getting a little bit closer. So, and actually, I kind of think we're out of the bottom of things. The last year or so, we've seen prices start to come back up a little bit.
A little bit. Mhm.
And as I start to say that, a lot of people's eyes kind of perk up because they think, oh, I can finally get what I want for my house. Well, slow down a little bit. When I say prices starting to go back up, I'm saying we've seen maybe 1% increase
Sure,
in prices
sure.
over the last year or so. And in this area, for a good market, if you look at most 10 years averages, we see about 3% appreciation on average for 10 years. So even in a good market, you're not going to see these 10 to 15% increases in your home values like
Right.
during the bubble. And so that's just not what we have around here. Some markets have it that way, but they're a lot more unstable. We're, as rough as it's been the last couple of years, we're a lot more stable of a housing market than a lot of other parts of the country.
Oh, sure. Like, for instance, I know Phoenix and some of those areas really,
Yeah.
really got hit hard. And I think they're still kind of struggling.
They're still coming out of it. Again, those areas, the hardest hit areas, are also the ones that come back the quickest and the soonest and the strongest. So they'll see some big increases in the next couple years, but then it'll plateau. While at that time, we've kind of been steadily increasing, and it all kind of works out in the end. I think it's better to be in the less volatile market, a little
Sure.
bit more ups and downs. I mean, a Phoenix or a California or a Florida market in another couple years could have another mini housing market downturn where we don't even feel it because we're just more of a stable market.
Well, I know that I was talking to another realtor friend of mine the other day, and he was telling me that, like in the last 2 months, he had sold all of his listings.
We've seen a big increase. Yeah. Just in the last week, I've taken 2 new listings and got 3 new buyers after I've already been working with several other buyers. So it has been a pretty big increase. And I'm a little surprised at that because normally August into September, people are getting into school.
Right.
So we see kind of a slowdown mid-August, and I guess we're not quite to mid-August yet, but I'm not seeing any indication that we're going to get that beginning of school slowdown. Which is I'm happy about, so I won't complain.
Sure, absolutely. And you're right, but I wonder if maybe, we kind of got a late start to everything this year, to
Yeah.
the summer and everything. So maybe we're just behind the 8 ball.
And that very well could be because the year from the beginning, I think, has been better. But I agree, it is kind of been a later start for, like you said, weather, for industry, for everything. But no, I think it is kind of finally starting to turn around. So, in the housing market, anyway.
Well, I hope so. I mean, that would be good for our economy and for everybody.
Absolutely.
And some people have kind of been sitting on the sidelines for a bit, just kind of wait and see. And we did have a mortgage loan officer in here a couple weeks ago, and he was saying that the rates are starting to come up a little bit. They're still really good. I remember when Paul
Absolutely.
and I bought our first home in the 80s, early 80s. We thought we had hit a home run because we got 12% interest.
It puts things into perspective.
So,
when,
sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So people who've been through that in the past, and you're looking at mortgage rates now, it's almost like free money to me because it's such a
and
low
we're still
rate.
at 4.5, less
Sure,
than 5%.
less than
That's about as
5%.
good as it can get. I mean, obviously it's been cheaper than that, but you really can't complain about that at all.
And a home is something that it kind of seems to me like people maybe aren't buying and selling quite as much as they were. I could be wrong, but it seems like they're picking their home when they're staying a little bit longer.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
They should. I mean, you shouldn't buy a home if you plan on moving in a couple years.
Sure.
It should be a more long-term thing. One, just to get your cost out of it. If you buy a home today, you're going to have to wait at least 2 to 3 years just to get your real estate commissions,
Right.
your expenses
All of
out
your
of it.
upfront costs.
And so if it's going to be less than 2 or 3 years, you might as well rent. And when you start getting into that 5, 7, 10-year range is when you start seeing a little bit of the payback from being in a home and getting some of that equity and that stuff.
That's for sure. And my point of bringing all that up is that's just another reason, in my opinion, to get an energy audit. Because if you're going to purchase a home and you're going to live there for any long period of time, be sure you know up front what you're getting yourself into. Unless you're one of those people who just likes to go in and remodel everything that you do. For some reason, we seem to do that a lot when Paul and I were doing that. And that's okay if that's what you like to do. But if that's not your thing and you're looking at a home and you want to move your family in and you're looking at, a 10-year commitment, then an energy audit would be something that would help you make a wise choice with how you're going to spend your money. Like you said, the mortgage payment is the mortgage payment, and then the utilities is a whole nother issue, and those can vary so much that sometimes the mortgage payment or the utility payment can really take a bite out of your income.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Stealing from your vacation fund.
Exactly.
Well, sure, and I heard the other day that to put a child in school now on average costs $600. I'm thinking, wow, I'm glad my kids are out of school. But, if you have a family of if you're 2 or 3 children and you're trying to get them back in school, then you add the cost of that. And there's so many things. So one place that you can actually kind of maybe control your costs and your expenses is in your utilities if you know what to do and how to best spend your money. Something that's come up, and we kind of visit about this a little bit, is, heating and air is something that you can put in that will reduce the cost of your utilities. You can get higher efficiency equipment today. The other thing is, if you're a city utilities client, there are still rebates available for that. We've been hearing out on the streets that there's some people in our industry telling their clients that those are no longer available, and that is not true. We still getting those for our clients every day. The money's going to be there until it runs out. We don't know when it's going to run out. I'm sure they will let us know, but they are still available. So if you're looking to do something like that, you might want to make sure you're dealing with a company that knows what's going on, that can get you the rebates, and that you're not buying something, and you do have to buy a certain SEER. You have to buy a 14 SEER. Most of the time, well, pretty all the time, it's worth it to go that extra SEER to get that rebate. And like Jeremy was talking before the show, we put in a new furnace for you guys. I don't remember when it was.
I don't either.
It's been quite a while.
It might have been just the end of winter, possibly. I want to say it was still cold outside when we did that.
Yeah. It's been several months ago, and there's two ways. There's 2 things you can do with that city utilities rebate. You can get it back to you in the form of a check, or you can apply it to your utility bill. And Jeremy, they decided to apply it to their utility bill, and he said they haven't paid a utility bill since we put that in.
That's right.
Because the rebates are that good. So don't be fooled into thinking that those are no longer available, because they are, and you want to take advantage of that as well.
It's Missouri Gas and Energy offers rebates. Empire offers rebates. City Utilities offers rebates.
Yes.
So it's just about every electric co-op or provider out there has some form of rebate. So get with somebody that knows about it. Call them, ask them, talk to them. Make sure you get all the paperwork right, buy the right equipment, get that money. It's there for the taking.
And that's
Make
something
sure
that
get
you
it.
can help people with when you do these audits.
That
You can
is
show
part
them
of
the
the service.
difference. Now, when you do these audits, can you show them the difference, like different SEERs, like in heating and air, how
Sure.
much difference that will save you? So, see, that's something that's really important, because we get that question a lot. They say, okay, if let's say I don't want to put in 14, I want to get more efficient, I want to get a 16, what's my payback and what's my savings and all that? An energy audit is a great tool to help you make those type of choices.
Right. And we can, I can put the data in the computer, and we can go from a 14 SEER to a 14.5 SEER to a 16 SEER, and we can see, okay, if I step up to the 16 SEER, it's going to pay for itself in an extra year, so that's really worth the money. When you figure the lifespan of your equipment, all that factors in, so you know exactly what you're getting. And then you got to weigh the rebates on there. Is it worth spending an
Absolutely.
extra $300 to get $600 worth of rebates? Yeah, of course it is. So
Well,
you
yeah,
gotta get it.
that's basic math. If you
There-
can add and subtract, then it makes those decisions easier for the homeowner to make. Let's just say someone has an existing home and they're looking at doing some improvements like that. Maybe they have a 20-year-old home and they haven't, things wear out after about 20 years, and they're wanting to upgrade or they're needing to make some purchases. how does a homeowner really know what the best thing for them to do? Do they go 14 or do they go 16? There's a lot of things involved with that. So you want to make sure, and we try to do that with all of our clients. We try and talk to them and explain to them, why you should do this or why you shouldn't. Sometimes we have a client that wants to. We had a client that had a little house here in town, a little tiny house, and he put 18 SEER equipment in there. It was like 1,000 square feet or whatever, and it didn't make sense for him to do that, but that's what he wanted to do, and we tried to talk him out of it. Well, we didn't, and he went and put it in, and he was real happy. He had like the tiniest utility bills on the planet. But then, 2 years later, he went back to where he came from. He had moved from out of state. Things didn't work out like he thought he was going to, so there was no way he recouped that cost.
Never got the payback.
Yeah.
And then to me, when they sold that house, that didn't necessarily increase the cost of the house either.
No, and that's a good thing to mention. Doing a lot, you got to be careful when you're doing any sort of updates to a house, but energy updates as well, because one, you get more bang for your buck, like you mentioned earlier, and two, some things don't add value. People expect a house to have a furnace and air conditioning.
Exactly.
And so, as a buyer, most of them aren't. Well, and as I'm saying this, it's kind of starting to change around here. 5 years ago, it wouldn't have mattered if it's an 80% or a
Right.
95%. It just doesn't matter. As we're in the Midwest, so it kind of takes trends a little bit longer to get here, but the energy efficiency trend is starting to have a little bit more of an impact. I know two builders, Dan Clark, who Mark works for, is one of them, and then a couple other builders who they only put in high efficiency furnaces in their houses. They only do R40 in the attic. They're starting to do simple things. I mean, it kind of goes down a little thing, caulking around all of the electrical points of the house to kind of seal it in. 3 years ago, these builders would have been like, no, it's not worth the money. Now
Right.
they're starting to see the benefit of those extra updates, and clients are starting to see it as well.
Well, I hear some music playing, so that means we're going to have to take a break, and we'll be back here shortly with more home repairs and solutions.
And you're plagued with green mildew. Well, your faucets, they all drip, and your sinks are all clogged up too. Well, there's no need to worry. I'll tell you what you can do. Just call Home Repairs and Solutions. Home Repairs and Solutions. They'll fix your windows, they'll fix your house. They'll even tell you how to get rid of a mouse. Home Repairs and Solutions.
And join us for America's First News, Monday through Saturday at 6:05 a.m. on the Wall Street Journal this morning on AM 560 KWTO.
Who's got ribs? And not just any ribs, the best tasting, succulent, juiciest, fall off the bone ribs you've ever tasted before. Haagen Sauce. That's right, Haagen Sauce in the Southern Hills Shopping Center, where this Friday only, get a delicious, mouth-watering half rack of barbecued smoked ribs for just $9.95. Haagen Sauce. Barbecue smoked ribs all day Friday for just $9.95. Where? Haagen Sauce. On East Sunshine in the Southern Hills Shopping Center, or online at HaagenSauce.com. Don't forget, this Friday, a $9.95 half rack of ribs only at Haagen Sauce on East Sunshine, Springfield.
Everybody, let's go, let's go. Ho, ho, ho. Welcome, everyone, to West High School Spring Fling. Hey, where we at, Steve?
Alright, I've gone through all the tracks, just move through the beats. Do your thing.
All right, everyone, let's hear it for West High's own Brooke Turner, a.k.a. DJ Hook.
Scratching at my first school dance takes confidence. So we're getting into college. I've got what it takes. Okay, I went through the practice sessions, I slept good, I feel good.
We will now begin the test. Please take out your pencils.
I got this.
We're all good at something. Maybe it's breakdancing or skateboarding or video games. Whatever you're good at, you had the skills to make it happen. And those same skills will help us get to college. Visit knowhowtogo.org to learn what you should be doing right now to prepare for college. Start taking the steps at knowhowtogo.org.
I've got what it takes. So do you.
Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation, and the Ad Council.
Flash flood watch in effect from 1 p.m. today through Monday morning. Localized downpours could cause flash flooding throughout the weekend. It will be mostly cloudy today with a couple of strong, drenching thunderstorms around, high of 89. Then a mostly cloudy night tonight with a couple of heavy showers and a thunderstorm with a low of 73. I'm AccuWeather's Kevin Snyder.
you don't know what to do. Your siding's going bad, and you're plagued with green mildew. Well, your faucets, they all drip, and your sinks are all clogged up too. Well, there's no need to worry. I'll tell you what you can do. Just call Home Repairs and Solutions. Home Repairs and Solutions. They'll fix your windows, they'll fix your house. They'll even tell you how to get rid of a mouse. Home Repairs and Solutions.
And welcome back to the Home and Repairs and Solutions Hour, brought to you by Spring Mountain Air, your Amana heating and air conditioning needs. Now, we're talking about home efficiency today, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
And this is Mary to tell us more.
Thank you so much, Gary, and thanks for being with us to all of our listeners out there today. I want to give out the number again. If you have any questions for these guys, be sure and give us a call. That's why we have the experts here in the studio, and they can answer your calls for you today. Our number here is 862-9977 or 1-800-375-0056. Now, I was thinking about something during the break here, and I wanted to ask Jeremy. I have a question about insulation. There's so many different kinds of insulation, and what is a good R factor that people should be looking at to have in their homes? Is it 30? Is it 40? Is it? I'm not sure where someone should be to get the best bang for their buck on the insulation side.
That is a loaded question.
Oh, of course. I'm good at those, Jeremy.
There's lots of different ways you can look at it, depending on what kind of insulation you're using. A lot of new homes now are using spray foam. We're going to do a lot of existing homes doing upgrades and using spray foam insulation. Basically, that's going to take care of air sealing and insulation at the same time. 30% of your utility bill is due to air infiltration. So if you can get up all those leaks sealed off, get your house tighter, you're going to drop your utility bills a lot, and that makes your insulation work better. If you can stop the air from getting to the insulation, perfect. Fiberglass insulation isn't the best insulator, but the more the better. So you like to see an R30, R38, kind of go up from there. If you've got an R19 in your attic now, yes, add to it, get it up there, get it higher. If you've got an R38 in your attic, it's hard to get the payback going from a 38 to a 50 out of fiberglass.
Okay.
Cellulose insulation is another good one. It air seals a little bit better than fiberglass does when you install it. So you get a little more air sealing properties, a little different R value, but still same thing. If you have a 19, add to it. If you've got a 38, stick with it. And then spray foam, a lot of the homes we do with spray foam, you'll get like an R22 out of it, which is scary to people because they hear that lower R value. Well, it stops the air from moving, controls it better. You're actually going to get a better utility bill because of what the spray foam does for you.
I see. Now does insulation compress over time? Do you lose R value over time if it sits in the attic?
It does. And installation's a big part of it. You get guys that install this fiberglass insulation, and they get it, with gaps and cracks and compression in it. And whenever you compress fiberglass insulation, it's not doing its job. It needs to be big and fluffy to slow down that air.
I see.
There's a lot of different ways to look at it. But
well, I had heard that you might lose some R factor over time just because it settles and compresses.
Sure.
And so if you say, maybe you had a good R factor 10 or 15 years ago, you might not still have that today.
It's probably time to freshen it up a little bit.
So you can do that by just coming in and, like, if you do cellulose or spraying or something, can you do that over the existing? Do you have to pull it all out? What can you do?
Depending on what you do. If you want to switch to spray foam, chances are we're going to need to suck all that insulation out of there and start over. If you have fiberglass insulation, we can add more fiberglass insulation. If you have cellulose, we can add more cellulose.
I see. So you can just go on over what's existing.
Sure.
You don't necessarily have to take it all out. Okay.
And most of the time you can add to anything you want, but if there's an existing fiberglass bat in there with, it's got the paper faced on it, you don't want to add cellulose to that.
I see.
So if you got fiberglass, stick with fiberglass. If you have cellulose, stick with cellulose.
Okay.
Why is the reason you don't want to mix them?
If you've got the bat on there, the paper actually catches the moisture. Cellulose is high in moisture content. The moisture will actually seep through there, get between the sheetrock and that paper, and then you've got black mold all over the place.
Oh.
And that freaks everybody.
Oh, yes, it does.
Like that.
That's a big issue. Well, we have a caller holding. We have Tom from Branson. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning. You're actually you started on it just as I called. I've got a 20-year-old house, and we blew the insulation in the top. It's I don't know what it is. It doesn't itch, and it's white.
Probably cellulose.
Okay. So how do I measure how deep it is now is there a formula to figure out the R factor that I have left, or?
Sure. You need to make sure you know what you've got in there first. This is where Google comes in really handy. If you've got a label or something left over from your insulation, you can Google that, and it's going to give you an R factor per inch. Then just go up there, find the shallowest spot in your attic, and measure that. That's where we like to measure from and take our data from that spot. And then just do the math. So.
Okay. I don't think I have a label left over. I don't ever remember seeing a label, but
does it look like ground up newspaper, or
no,
does it look like cotton candy?
Yeah, cotton candy.
That's going to be that's going to be fiberglass insulation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of the new fiberglass that's blow in really doesn't make you itch that much. Not like the old pink stuff we'd all blow in and scratch for days and days and days. So we're going to have fiberglass in there. Pretty simple. Some of the brands differ a little bit in R value, but they're all pretty consistent. 6 inches of it's about an R19. 12 inches, you're looking at an R38.
Okay. Well, I think I haven't put 12 or 14 in at the time. So.
Okay, that's about right. That's what you want to shoot for. For the longest time, everybody wanted an R30 here. Over the last couple of years, we finally bumped that up to wanting an R38. So the more, the better.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good day and weekend, too.
Thanks for calling in, Tom, and thanks for being a listener on the show. That's insulation is one of those things that you were talking about the spray foam. Is there ever an instance where maybe in an existing home that you can't get the spray foam in there?
Cost is usually what keeps it from happening.
I mean, if you have a low-profile roof or something, is that an issue, or?
You can, you usually get to the attic no matter what. If we can get in your attic, we can get insulation in there in one form or another. So if you can get in there and blow fiberglass, we can blow spray foam in it. You just got to be able to get the old out to get the new in.
Now, is the spray foam, is it a solid, or is it a?
Once it dries, it is a solid.
So what happens when, like for instance, in my attic, I have electrical running all through the attic and stuff. If you put that in there,
it's there.
How do you, if you have an electrical issue, then how do you address that?
You would just have to rewire. I mean, it's
okay.
that easy.
All right.
Most of the new homes we're going through putting spray foam in now, they get the wiring inspection, everything done beforehand. That way they sign off, then we come in and insulate that, and it's there. But you got to think of the structural integrity too you're adding to the house, because that spray foam is rigid once it sets, and it's doing a lot also So.
And you also got to think those wires are going to be encapsulated in that, so they're going to be even more protected from getting cut or torn or a mouse eating through
chewing
them or
on
something.
It, yeah.
They're going to be even more protected and harder to get to, so it's probably not really a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, and most mice don't like spray foam. There's some bio-based foams that are like soy and super green and super natural. The mice like that. They will chew on some of that, but for the most part, they do not like spray foam.
I see. Okay, we have another caller. We have Pat in Stone County. Hello, Pat.
Hi, I have spray foam insulation, and it has really helped me in my utilities. But I have one area that I did not spray foam, and that's underneath the porch where you go to when you have storms.
Sure, safe room.
Safe room. Should I spray foam that? Because I am getting a musty smell in my basement. It comes from there.
Sure. The first thing I would want to look at is to see what your heating and air system's doing, if you have a fresh air ventilator or something in the house.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
We need to make sure that's working right, make sure it's removing enough water. If you're getting a musty smell, chances are it needs to be ramped up a little bit more to get that out of there, get that circulating. And then you start looking at and seeing how damp that safe room is. Generally, depending on what you want to spend, people like to go around the outside of the safe room, such as the living space, not the actual safe room itself. If you're going to be trapped in there at any long amount of time, you definitely want to have fresh air in there. So if you were to insulate that, you're going to have to pipe in a fresh air from somewhere to that room, which is usually easier said than done. But that's something you need to look at.
Okay, we use a dehumidifier in there all the time, and that has helped 100%. But I don't like the noise, and I don't like having to empty it. And I was just wondering if I should just spray foam it, then that would end my problem.
If that, you're going to have to source point the problem first. So if that is where the problem is, yes, spray foam and that, say even a closed cell foam, which kind of repels the water a little bit, is going to be great for that. So there's several different ways to look at it. Probably need to do some tests on it, take a look, get a professional to make sure that's what you need, and kind of go from there.
Very good. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for calling, Pat.
And you also brought up a good point, just kind of as a safety issue. When you get into more energy efficient houses or tighter houses that have less air coming in and out of them, especially in closed off safe rooms like that are going to be even more insulated, you definitely want to have some other air source coming in from the outside. Excuse me. So basically, so you don't suffocate.
Sure.
That's right.
As you make a house more, and you can back me up if I'm right on this, as you make a house more energy efficient and tighter where less air can transfer in and out, that air inside of there is also trapped. I mean, air from the outside can't get in, but the inside air can also get out. So if you're breathing all that oxygen and it's not getting replenished, you've got some health or safety issues with that as well.
There's a ASHRAE 62.2 is the current standard that everyone has to go by as far as code on how much air has to be in a house. So we kind of use that formula. I use that in our computer program. It automatically figures it in. So when we do a new home and I do the consulting work on it, we put in all the data and it's going to tell me this house needs 119 CFM of fresh air. So there's several different ways we can do that. They have continuous running bath fans that will actually keep the air moving all the time. Not a big fan of that because that's costing you money. ERVs, or energy recovery ventilators, are perfect. They'll actually help you downsize your air conditioner a little bit because they make up for some of that cooling, and they keep all the good energy out of the air before shooting it out, so you're not wasting money on that. They make HRVs, they work in the heating season. They make dampers that hook into the cold air return side of your unit that open and close and bring fresh air in all the time. So there's several different ways to do it depending on what your budget is, what you need to do. But that's definitely something you got to keep in mind when you are sealing a house up that tight.
Yeah.
Okay, that brings up a question real quick. Let's say that you're going to, maybe you have an existing home and you're going to go in and you're going to put that insulation in that will seal it up.
Sure.
Does that create an issue with the air in your house? Do you need to look at something then if you do that?
Depending on how leaky the house was. That's why we do the blower door test. We figure out what the building airflow standard of your house is, and then we test it and see what that number actually is in your house now. So we know how tight we can get it. Then foam your house, take care of everything. We're going to test that again to see how tight it is. If we're below that standard, then we're going to have to look into getting fresh air to it.
Okay. So if you are looking at changing out your insulation, there's a little more things you need to know.
Sure.
So you don't want to get your house so airtight. And a lot of people do. I mean, I'm kind of the same way. I don't like that draft coming around the door, the window, and I always want all that stuff fixed. But you have to be aware that if you get it too tight, then you can have an air quality issue inside the home. And so you would need to address that as well.
And that's going to affect a lot of things. I mean, you get your house tighter, say your house was super leaky, your heating and air guy sized your furnace for that. Now the house is tighter. Well, now all of a sudden your heating and air equipment's too big. I mean, there's lots of avenues you've got to really look at before you start doing that kind of thing. And
doing that drastic of a change.
That's right.
Yeah. And that's something that Jeremy could address if that's something you're looking to do. We haven't given out contact information, so why don't we'll start with you, Jeremy, and tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Sure. You can visit the website, EnergyWiseMissouri.com. It's a really long website. You can email me, jwashley@EnergyWiseMissouri.com. You can call me at 417-893-8941. Or if you just go to the website, there's a comment section on there. You can click on that, and that'll get a hold of me, too. So
lots of ways to get a hold of you.
Lots of ways. Text me, whatever you want. So.
There you go. And then, Ron, how can people get a hold of you?
Best way is my cell phone. It's 766-3559, but we can also go to the website, the HartmanGroupRealEstate.com. I think my website might be a little bit longer name than yours. It's the HartmanGroupRealEstate.com, and you can email me from there. And again, my phone numbers are on there as well, and that's the easiest way.
So if you ever have any questions for either one of these gentlemen and you need to get a hold of them, you can always do that. Something I haven't talked about for a little while, we record these shows every week, and then I put them through a process, and then we upload them on my website. You can go to www.springmountaineer.com. There's a radio tab on there. You can click on that if you ever want to come back and revisit any of the information that we're giving out on the air or contact information. There's a Mary's list on our website that will have the information for both of these gentlemen on there. We'll give you a map. We'll give you their website address, all kinds of really good information on there. So, maybe you're not ready to do this right now, but maybe 6 months from now you are. Maybe you're maybe you're someone who, kind of like Paul and I were, we didn't do projects in the summer, we did projects in the winter. And so, if you're looking to maybe do something this winter, maybe improve some insulation later on this fall, or buy a house or whatever it is you want to have going on, make sure you get a hold of these guys. They're both experts in their field. They're very knowledgeable. They're very helpful. They will help you make the right decision so that you don't end up with buyer's remorse or ending up spending money on something that you might think would save you on the utility bill, which really doesn't. So I just like to get information out there. I like for people to be able to spend their money wisely. I want them, to be happy with the decisions they make, and that's why we bring experts on the show to kind of help you with those decisions.
Just one kind of hint for people. I think at least it was for me, one of the most, what am I trying to say? The most money I got back for the money I spent on as far as an energy efficiency, programmable thermostats.
Yeah.
My bill, when I probably started, it was a $30 thermostat. I got a $15 credit for it from CU. I probably went down $30 a month just having a programmable thermostat and setting it all the time. Have it either if it's in the wintertime, have it temperature turned down when you leave for work and have it turned back up an hour before you get home. And I was amazed at how well that worked for only being $30, and it made a huge difference in my utility bill.
It will if people use those properly,
Yeah.
and if they know how
And
to
that's the
program
key.
them. You have to use them properly. Now, if you if that's not something that you want to mess with, if you don't have regular set hours, and you're in and out different hours of the day all the time, and then you're constantly jacking it up and jacking it down, that probably isn't going to be the best. Yeah. But if you're someone like Ron or like myself who typically leave at, you're home at 7 in the morning, get back in 5 in the evening, then programmable thermostat will definitely benefit you in the utility side of it. So that is something that you can keep in mind as well. And that is something that's pretty simple.
Well, it's pretty simple. I mean, if you're I wouldn't call myself handy at all, and I installed it myself. I mean, they're not overly complicated. You can spend anywhere from $20 to $50 depending on how fancy of a screen you want. Probably more than that for some of them.
There's all kinds of thermostats available now that can do all kinds of things for you.
Yeah, but it's just a good, easy, cheap way to save some money, to start off saving some money on your house.
Sure. And do you take into account on your energy audits the kind of thermostat people use?
Yes, we do. There's actually a tab in a section of the mechanical section of the program that's one of the questions. Does it have a programmable thermostat or not? So that's a big one. Light bulbs, another easy money saver. Get rid of the old bulbs, put in the compact fluorescents or the LEDs, and that's.
Now, I've heard the LEDs are more energy efficient than the compact fluorescents. Is that correct?
They are. They're super low voltage, really long lifespan. Finally, compact fluorescents are starting to drop in price where they're affordable, where everybody can get to those. So LEDs will be the same way in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. Well, it's just like anything else that comes new on the market. So we have another caller. We better get to them before we run out of time. We have Gary in Springfield. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning. My question is regarding when you were talking about having the programmable thermostats and not having a necessarily fixed schedule. Aren't there some thermostats out there nowadays that you can use that are internet capable? Therefore, you could hook them into your router at the house and therefore be able to turn them up and down via the internet when you're getting ready to leave or come home or whatever.
They've even got apps for your smartphone where you can buy that, get the app on your phone, and work it from your phone from wherever you are. So there's a lot of great technology out there.
That would take care of the issue of not having a fixed schedule. If therefore you kind of know maybe 30, 45 minutes before you're going to come home.
Absolutely.
And therefore can turn it up or down depending on the season accordingly. When that work out for you?
That'd be
yes,
great.
It would. It certainly would.
Well, one thing I like to tell people is when you're leaving for the day in the wintertime, don't turn it down to 50 degrees and let it, as soon as you come home, it have to catch up, all that. It's best to drop it down to 65 or so, but don't go too crazy because all that money you saved all day, it's going to burn up catching up real quick when you get home. So.
Okay, and then one other question regarding the situation of sizing the units, specifically on air conditioning. One of the benefits of an air conditioner is to do dehumidification. In other words, taking the moisture out of the air. Wouldn't having a dehumidifier in some cases be of benefit to the homeowner from that standpoint so that you take if you feel like your air conditioner is not keeping up well enough, to actually take some of the humidity out of the air so that you can get better efficiency out of your air conditioner?
It will help, but if your air conditioner is sized properly, what people always freak out because their air conditioner runs too much. If your air conditioner is sized perfectly, it's going to run on a nice low speed continuously. It's going to be conditioning the air all the time. I mean, that's an air conditioner's job, is to pull moisture out of the air and make you comfortable. So as long as they're sized right, you're going to have long run times pulling moisture out, and it's not going to that initial zap and hit you all at once. So.
Okay, one other thing, if I can. When on the air conditioning side, should you run your fan on continuous or run it on auto in the summertime?
It depends on who you talk to. I keep mine on auto in my home. I know some people that just like the air movement all the time, and they leave theirs on continuous. So it's a personal preference thing. It's going to burn more energy having that fan on all the time as it would on auto. So it's a personal preference. But in my personal house, it's on auto.
Okay, it's on auto, or is it on continuous?
It's on auto.
It's on auto.
Yep.
Well, the thing I was looking at, too, is if you have several ceiling fans in your house, it doesn't take very long, because ceiling fans are not very efficient at all.
Sure. You can get an Energy Star ceiling fan now, which it really helps a lot. That's a big difference maker right there. That's something to look into if you like having fans and like that air movement.
And so I was wondering if you have, like, offsetting 2 or 3 ceiling fans running virtually continuous, wouldn't that be just as effective to run the furnace fan or the air conditioning fan on continuous then? Where's the kind of the break between having ceiling fans versus running the unit?
A lot of that's going to depend on what equipment you have, what size blower motor your furnace has, how old are your ceiling fans, how many watts are they pulling.
Okay.
There's just so many variables.
There is it's a crapshoot. I mean, you're going to have to look into equipment and age and performance factors and things like that to really get into the brass tacks of it.
So when it comes really down to it, it's kind of pretty much whatever you are most comfortable at is really the governing factor on that.
And if you've never had an auto or anything done, you can play with it. You could, hey, I'm going to run, the fan on the heater all day today for a couple of days and see how many kilowatts you use that day. Just mark it on your calendar, and then the next day use your ceiling fans and mark it down and kind of see which one is using more energy. That's a good way to kind of keep yourself in check that way.
Well, I personally found that I can turn up in the summertime, I can run the air conditioning a couple of degrees higher as far as, like 78 or something like that instead of 76 if I run the fan continuous.
Sure.
But I don't know that I'm actually coming out ahead or not.
Right.
So.
Yeah, an energy audit might help you answer some of them questions, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, Jeremy can help. That's something that we get those questions too, and you can't just give a definitive answer because, like you said, it depends on the age of everything, the model. I mean, everything is different. Manufacturers are all different, and how things are used and that type of thing. And the bottom line is you do want to be comfortable in your home.
Right.
So. Well, we're down to about 1 minute left. I want to thank you guys again for being with me on the show. I think that you brought in some great information, had some callers, so hopefully some of our listeners out there will start thinking about maybe things they can do to their own home, or maybe if they're in the market to buy a home, it might be something they want to look into as an energy audit as well before making that decision.
Absolutely. And as far as buying a home, interest rates, like we mentioned earlier, maybe have gone up a little bit, but they're still really low. Prices are still really low. There's still a lot of great houses out there.
Well, thanks, guys. I do appreciate you being with us. I hear the music now, so I would say we're just about out of time. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Please come back next week. Mark will be back with us. And it's always fun to have him on the show with me. I miss him when he's not here. And so you have been listening to Home Repairs and Solutions. We're here every Friday morning from 10 to 11 right here on 560 KWTO.
Well, I went down to the hardware store to see my old friend Bob. I said my roof it leaks, my rug's a mess, and my front door needs a new knob. I got squirrels in my attic, I got bats in my head. Well, Bob just leaned over the counter and he shook his head and said, "You need home repairs and solutions. Home repairs and solutions. They'll fix your windows, they'll fix your house, they'll even tell you how to get rid of a mouse. Home repairs and solutions."